Hey guys, Shoney here. Just got this Stihl leaf blower in. It's a BG55, and the complaint is that it doesn't start. Um, right off the bat, you can see right up that the primer bulb is cracked and broken. So it's probably going to need a whole bunch of things going on here, just mostly fuel related. But I want to make sure that it has spark and compression. So we're gonna pull the air cover off, pull the air filter there, put some fuel in there, some two-stroke fuel, and see if we can get this thing to fire. It does have some nice fresh gas. We will pull that out and double check and make sure there's no water in there. But let's just see if we can get this thing to start. So we'll pull this air cover box. Got a pretty dirty air filter. We'll replace that. And we'll take the choke off. And you can see right there is the intake. Squirt some fuel down there and see if we can get this to start. All right, we got some fresh two-stroke fuel. We'll pull the trigger. Squirt some fuel in there. Make sure the kill switch is on. And we're going to give it a few pulls here. All right, it does start. It's running a little bit rough. It probably would run fine, but you can see how dirty everything is here. We got to rebuild this, and we got to take this. We got to replace this primer bulb anyway. So we're gonna pull this all apart, get down into that carburetor, probably put some new gaskets in it. But it does have spark, does have compression. If that wouldn't start like that, I would next check the spark with a spark tester. Looks kind of like this, and then if it does have spark and it still wouldn't fire, then I would probably pull this cover off. Take the exhaust off and look at the piston, or do a compression check, but then look at the piston if it's not getting good compression. But since we know we have compression and spark, we're going to dig right in, pull this carb apart, give it a good cleaning, and probably replace the fuel anyway, and show you how to do that. First and foremost, we got to get this air box cover off, and then to get the carb off, we have to actually take this whole entire cover off. Okay, we're going to need a T27 Torx bit or wrench and a 8mm socket to get the airbox off. First, we'll do the side cover here. So we'll get these bolts off. There's 4 of those. You're going to remove the pull cord assembly. And now we have better access to our carburetor here, because if you try to get that carburetor off, it'll kind of just pin up against the back here and you won't be able to slide it out. So you have to do that to get this out. All right, we're going to remove these 2 bolts right here. You can't see the one because it's covered in dirt, but the other one's right there. They're both 8mm. Now we can pull this air box off. And that goes out of the way. We'll give that a good cleaning as well. There's a gasket right here. Don't lose that. I'm going to clean this up real quick, and then when we come back after that, I'm going to we'll pull this all apart. But I don't want to get all this dirt all over everything into the carburetors and down into the intake. So we'll give it a good cleaning, and then we'll come back. All right, we're at this point now. I just got it cleaned up. Just use a little bit of a degreaser and then the pressure washer. Try not to spray too much water down there. A little bit inside is not going to cause any problems. What I want to do quick is drain the fuel out, get a good look at it, and make sure it's 2-stroke, which it is. I can tell by the color, and it's pretty fresh too. But we'll get that out of the way for now. All right, now we're at this part. We got the fuel drained out. We have to get this off, but you can see how the throttle kind of gets hung up here, and you can't get that off unless you take this cover off. A few more T27 bolts. Right, when we take this apart, I'm usually pretty careful with this because I don't want things going flying everywhere. We got to remove the spark plug cap first. There we go. Pull that up and over. Throttle linkage is hung up there. Let's pull that back a little bit. There we go. Now it'll come off together. So try to keep that together if I can, so I don't screw up too many things. Make sure you don't, when you put it back together, this ground wire gets in the right spot. Now we can get our carburetor off. We got to pull the fuel lines off. Pull this out and get to the other one. And now we have our carburetor. Double check your fuel lines. Make sure they're not dry rotted or anything. These are in pretty good shape. So you can set that aside for now. We'll take the carb. We'll start pulling this apart and clean it up a little bit more, and then we'll dig in. All right, let's take the primer bulb off here. And again, we're going to be replacing that. Next, we'll see our diaphragm here. Getting a little hard, I'd say. Not terrible, but I'm going to replace this anyway since we're in here. We'll put a new whole gasket kit in. You want to inspect your gasket, this diaphragm here. If this is starting to get hard, and then actually you can hear it, actually it just tore real easy. So that means it's going bad. You can see how brittle it's getting. All right, that should be nice and rubbery. So we'll put a new diaphragm and a diaphragm gasket in here. We're going to pull this jet out quick, just make sure that's nice and clean. And I can see through it pretty well. So you're very careful with powerful cleaners and air here. You don't want to disrupt the check valve that's underneath this little plug here. That'll basically ruin your carb. So I usually just lightly clean up here with some cleaner and a little bit of light air. And I'm going to actually put this jet right back in so I don't forget to do that. We'll pull this side off. Check our pump diaphragm. And also our fuel screen, which actually looks pretty clean. Looks pretty good in here. Carburetor doesn't look bad at all. Using a good fuel with no ethanol in it really helps keep these things going long periods of time. Check valve's not bad, but again, since we're in here, we're going to replace all these gaskets. I'm going to pull this fuel screen out real quick. It's nice and clean. It's a Zama carb. I'm going to see if I have a Zama kit for this one. A lot of them are pretty similar. Some are slightly different. I'll put a link in the description and see if we can rebuild this right away. All right, I do have the parts. It's a GND56 kit. You just got to make sure that this little hole in the diaphragm is up on the top. There's the newer, different material, a little bit more hardy material gasket diaphragm. And then also the gasket for the pump diaphragm. I am going to put a new fuel screen in, so we'll put that in first. That's just going to set on top like that. I like to use the back of like a 1/4 inch bit to push that down inside, just like that. Okay. Now next thing, we'll take this plate that goes on top of the pump diaphragm. We're going to put the diaphragm on, or the gasket on. Then this pump side diaphragm, and we'll get that on right away. This can only go on one way, so sometimes you got to move the throttle out of the way, and it should click in place and not be able to move. Put that bigger screw on right away. All right, again, make sure you have the diaphragm with a little hole on it in the top center. Just make sure you get the right kit. That goes down first. Then we're going to put the diaphragm with the pinwheel side down. The new primer bulb. This plate goes on top. And then these screws, and they should slide down pretty easily. Don't force it. Make sure you always tighten these by hand. It's recommended to use a screwdriver, not a impact, but try to do this a little bit faster than I usually do. All right. I should have a little bit of air coming out of there and a little bit of suction coming out of there. Okay, so that's the carbs rebuilt. Now we can put this back on and see if we can get this thing to run. So I'll check the fuel filter real quick. The fuel filter is actually very clean. I'm not even going to touch that. If it was pretty dirty inside this carburetor and inside the tank here, I would replace it, but I can easily push air through the filter, so that's not going to be a problem. Now this is our return line, which is this front side, and then our back side is there. We'll get that on, make sure that gasket is there. Now we got to hook up our throttle linkage. Again, make sure this little ground wire is over here is hooked up correctly, and then that all should click in very easily. Okay. Should not be forced. It should not have to force anything. That should just go in real smooth. We can double check our throttle working. It does. Put our plug cap back on. Intake gasket on. Clean up this air box real quick. All right, that's going to go in next. Like that. And we'll put the recoil starter back on. Make sure that everything looks good in there. This smaller Torx bolt goes up on top here. And all the ones with the shoulders go on the sides and back, and the sides and the bottom. All right, new air filter. Put that on. All right, let's get some fresh fuel in there. All right, let's see if we can get some fuel to pull through the carb. There it comes. And trigger's on. Let's put the choke on, and we'll give it a couple pulls so we can get this started. Not bad. We'll go to half choke. Does not sound bad, but before I go and adjust the carburetor, I want to pull the spark arrestor off and make sure that that's nice and clear. All right, that's pretty good. So spark arrestor is nice and clean. I just want to, I'm just going to have to adjust the carb a little bit. It probably was played with before when it was a little dirty inside that carburetor. All right, so I'm going to adjust the carburetor, start this up, adjust the carburetor. We have our high on the outside, our low on the left side. If I can't get it to rev where I want to, you can actually take these little plastic guards off. These are like kind of tamper proof, so you don't make it too lean and blow your engine up. But let's see if I can get this thing to run without removing that and get this thing to fire and get to rev pretty well. All right, sounds pretty good. Couple parts here that were replaced, but you can see that this diaphragm was shot, was going bad. And probably could have cleaned the air filter, but we're replacing it because we're doing a whole service. So that's it, guys. If you got any questions, hit me up in the comments. You can check out some of my other content over there. You can check out my channel over there. Appreciate it. Even if this helped you out just a little bit, even if you give me a thumbs up, it helps the algorithm. I'll catch you guys next time. Thanks for watching.